People think revenge is loud. They imagine screams, blood, shattered glass. They are wrong. Real revenge is quiet. It grows while you smile. It learns while you bow your head. It waits while the world underestimates you. This is my story. I am Diana, and this is how I loved a man named Edward, and how I destroyed him without ever raising my voice. Point 1. The house that swallowed meth. First time I walked through the iron gates of the Hawthorne estate, I felt like the house was breathing, not alive. Watching, the mansion stood tall, white and cold, surrounded by trimmed hedges and silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. I was 19 then, poor, proud, and desperate enough to accept a job where my name would barely matter. You'll clean, you'll listen, you'll stay invisible. That's what the agency woman said before sending me here, and I agreed, because when you grow up with hunger, invisibility feels like safety. Edward Hawthorne was not home that day. I met the house before I met the man. Marble floors that echoed my footsteps like accusations. Chandeliers that reflected a girl who didn't belong. Staff who spoke softly, as if the walls themselves could hear, and above all of it, his presence, even absent. Edward owned the air. 2. The first look Edward returned 3 days later. I remember because my hands were wet. My back hurt, and my mind was somewhere far away when I heard his voice. Who is she? Not cruel, not kind. Just curious. I turned. Edward Hawthorne was not handsome in the way movies promise. He was something more dangerous, controlled, composed, painfully aware of himself. His suit fit like it had been stitched onto his body. His eyes were gray, sharp, observant. He looked at people the way rich men do, as systems to be understood. She's the new maid, the head housekeeper said. I lowered my gaze immediately. That's what maids do, but he didn't tell me to leave. What's your name? He asked. Diana, sir. The pause that followed lasted too long. Diana, he repeated softly, tasting the word. That was the first crack. 3. The invisible threaded word never touched me at first. He watched. He noticed when I worked late, when I skipped meals, when my hands shook after phone calls from home. He asked questions without sounding like questions. You read? He said once, seeing a book hidden beneath my mattress. Yes, sir. Education. I had to leave. He nodded, as if filing the information away. Then he started giving me small responsibilities. Library cleaning, personal office, bringing his tea. Privileges. The staff noticed. They always do. Whispers followed me down hallways. She thinks she's special. She doesn't know her place. Neither did I. Not anymore. 4. Love, disguised as mercy towards kindness, came quietly. A scholarship brochure left on the table accidentally. A coat placed over my shoulders when I was sick without a word. A raise I never asked for. One night, he found me crying in the library. He didn't ask why. He just sat across from me. People like us, he said, we don't survive by emotion. We survive by control. I should have been afraid. Instead, I felt seen. Love doesn't arrive like a storm. Sometimes it arrives like permission, and that night, I fell in love with Edward Hawthorne. 5. Crossing the Lineth. First time he kissed me. It wasn't sudden. It was inevitable. It happened after months of glances that lasted too long. Conversations that drifted too close to truth. Silences filled with things neither of us said. I shouldn't, he whispered. Neither should I, but I did, and so did he. He told me I was different, that I understood him, that the world had made him hard. But I made him feel human. I believed him, because I wanted to. 6. The golden cage. Loving Edward meant living in shadows. I was still a maid to the world. But in private, I was his secret. He bought me dresses I could never wear outside. Books I read alone. Jewelry that stayed hidden in drawers. Not yet, he'd say. Timing matters. I learned the rules quickly. Never speak first in public. Never expect promises. Never forget who had power, but power doesn't protect you from hope. And hope is the most dangerous thing of all. 7. The day everything. Edward got engaged. I found out the same way servants find out about storms, by hearing the thunder. Too late. Her name was Charlotte. Perfect, polished, powerful. She belonged in his world. I did not. When I confronted him, my hands were shaking. You said I mattered. I never said forever. He replied calmly. That calm destroyed me. You were a chapter. Diana, he said. Don't confuse attention with destiny. That night, I realized something terrifying. Edward had loved me the way men love mirrors, not for who I was, but for what I reflected. 8. The breaking point. Didn't fire me. That was worse. He let me stay. Clean his floors, serve his fiancée, smile. Humiliation became my uniform. And that's when revenge was born, not from anger, from clarity. I stopped crying. I started watching. 9. Learning the gamed word underestimated one thing. Me. I listened to phone calls. I memorized patterns. I learned accounts, schedules, secrets. I studied law at night, finance, contracts. I became invisible again, but this time, by choice. Revenge is not about destruction. It's about exposure. 10. Becoming untouchable. I left the house quietly. Edward barely noticed. Within 3 years, I was no longer a maid. I was educated, connected, dangerous, and then I returned not as Diana the servant, but as Diana, Vale investor consultant woman, with leverage. Edward didn't recognize me at first, but when he did, the fear in his eyes was delicious. 11. The Fally didn't take his money. I took his control. I exposed his hidden accounts, his unethical deals, his carefully buried sins. Everything collapsed. And when he begged, I smiled. You taught me control, I said softly. I learned well. 12. The final truth. Do I still love Edward? That's the wrong question. Love doesn't disappear. It transforms. What I loved in him died the day he chose power over humanity. What remained deserved consequences. Revenge didn't heal me, but it freed me. Epilogue. People still ask about Edward Hawthorne. I never answer. Some stories are not meant to be explained. They are meant to be remembered by the one who survived them, and I did.